cool thing about getting older is you get wiser, you're better able to spot your mistakes before you make them. The downside is you make them anyway, which is why it is almost May now and I'm still suffering the effects of my training having slipped for the last couple of months. Today, I'm going to do an FTP test on the bike and see just how bad it has got after some food. Right, so here's what I've noticed these last couple of weeks, now that my training is back to where it should be. Actually, first, let's just quickly go back and recap. Last year, trained properly, consistently for Ironman that was supposed to be happening this June, and then Christmas, Ironman looked very unlikely. And so I started to muck about a bit, doing lots of racing on the Zwift bike, still training, but definitely not as efficiently. And then around February this year, closure of the gyms, cancellation of the races, the weather, everything just kind of ground to a halt, almost mentally. And then the last couple of weeks being back on it and going after it again. So a good couple of months of poor quality training. What's that meant? Where am I now? In the gym, I'm fine. In fact, it's like I'd never stopped despite the fact that the gyms were shut for months. For example, I haven't deadlifted properly in over a year. It's not even an exercise I ever really paid much attention to anyway. But the other day, first heavy session since gyms are reopened, and I'm pulling 180. That's almost 400 pounds. Felt fine. In fact, I only stopped at 180 because I started out too light, thinking I'd be way weaker than that, and spent ages working up to that point. So strength, good. But endurance, it's grim. I've done a few races lately on Zwift and even the short ones have left me just gasping for air. This is me the other day, 25-minute race. I averaged only 300 watts and I almost died. According to Zwift Power, my 20-minute best should be around 330 watts. And at the end of it, I couldn't even get my 5-second wattage over 900. Again, after a short race like that, it should be way over 1,000, if not 11 or 1,200. Then yesterday, I did a Zwift training session. Basically very simple, consisted of 3 minutes at my FTP of 316, then 3 minutes above it, and 3 minutes closer to 400, followed by a 9-minute rest, repeat. Should be tough, but doable. Zwift Power again says I can hold close on 400 watts for 5 minutes, so it should have been straightforward. It wasn't. Looking on Garmin, you can see the steady section before the 3 tough sections kick in, and then I managed the 316 block and just died straight away after that. The repeats were not much better. I ended up quitting 20 minutes before the end of the session. Useless. There was no way I was going to be pedaling at close to 400 watts for any length of time. And to be fair, it's not much better when I'm out running either. So here's my sports sciencey theories on what's going on here. Possibility 1 is that my strength is a long way from the strongest I could be. I've never spent any serious time focused on getting stronger or bigger, so I just kind of enjoyed lifting weights with no real emphasis on anything other than sort of having fun really. I'm nearly 50, but probably still way off my potential best. But after my Ironman training last year, maybe my cycling was closer to as good as I could be, and therefore the bounce backwards was harder, like stretching an elastic band to its full potential. You take the pressure off and it's halved in size instantly. That is called the Mark Lewis elastic band theory, and it's probably nonsense because I've never ridden a bike before last summer anyway, so how on earth could I possibly be at my maximum potential after just a few months later? It's almost certainly rubbish. Possibility 2 is that irrespective of where you are on the ladder of potential, strength just sticks around after it's developed longer than endurance will if you stop training and just eat rubbish. That's the Mark Lewis strength is more resilient to donut consumption theory. It's probably rubbish as well. Possibility 3 is it's something else that's way beyond my expertise. It's probably number 3. So the plan is to do an FTP test. Haven't done one in months. Last time I did, it was 316 watts. And at the time, it felt like it was increasing steadily. I was looking forward to getting above 320 the next time I did one. My expectation is that it is going to be lower than that today. I've got some work to do now and then some food to eat and then back in here this afternoon, going to find out basically how bad the damage is. Okay, here we go, 5-minute warm-up and then we are into it. I now need to hand over to my future commentating self because A, I need to concentrate on this and looking at some of those wattages to come, it's already mildly terrifying. And B, I need to play Rocky 4 soundtrack for motivation, and if YouTube can hear that, then it has a hissy fit. So I'm out. Okay, so we are off. In case you don't know, an FTP test is designed to test your functional threshold power. Theoretically, that's the amount of wattage that you could hold for 1 hour of riding. Mine was 316 on my previous test, and it had probably increased slightly after that as we got closer to Christmas. I had a few rides where I felt like I was holding around 320 watts for an hour. As an example, I did Alpe de Zwift in 1 hour at 100 kilos. It's widely regarded as needing 3.2 watts per kilo to do that, so it seems that that old FTP result was about right. Now, you can test your FTP by riding for 1 hour, but that is horrific. So it is typically done in one of two ways. You either do a 20-minute test where the results of 20 minutes are then extrapolated to deduce a 1 hour equivalent, or you do what I did here, which is you do a ramp test where you ride at increasing wattages that go up every minute, and you simply ride as long as you can. The bike is in ergo mode, so it's increasing the power for you. I just need to stay on it, stay seated, stay pedaling. The minute I can't pedal any longer, the test is over, some fancy calculation happens, and that concludes my result. Is it as accurate as the other ways of testing FTP? Probably not, doesn't matter, it's good enough, and it is not particularly draining. I'm in the gym tomorrow morning, I'm doing legs in the morning, I'm then running in the afternoon. I don't need a tough ride today. So jumping into it, and just over 9 minutes gone, the bulk of that was an easy warm-up. We are now working through the wattages. 180 watts, very straightforward. Heart rate only 120, in fact heart rate not even high enough to have triggered my fan to kick in at this point. Talking to the Wahoo fan, it's now mounted on the wall at the perfect height off the ground. Love it. So just moving on to 200 watts, warm enough to get the hoodie off. It still feels pretty comfortable though. It's a feature of the test that pressure goes from very relaxed to, oh good God, really quickly. In the past, that point for me has been around 350 watts. I'm expecting it sooner this time, but certainly comfortable enough here. Right, 300 watts, about 15 minutes into the test. Rocky is coming on, so we need to drop the audio on that. So at this point, approaching now the step up from 340 to 360 watts, and I'm just concentrating on keeping my legs from spinning, controlling my breathing, trying to keep my heart rate down under 170. And if it was just a case of staying at this level, if this was a group race and I just needed to do this wattage to stay with the group, it wouldn't be that bad. But it's the psychology of knowing that in another minute you've got another 20 watts coming on. It's what makes the ramp test so fun and so nasty at the same time. So here I make possibly a mental error, because as it goes into 380 watts, I tell myself just get to 400 watts, just do 60 seconds more at this level, which kind of guarantees that as soon as I get to 400 watts, I'm going to be done. It's a stupid head game to have played with myself. I should have just told myself, just keep pedaling. So here, not far till that step up to 400 watts, heart rate over 180. I'm struggling to get my pedal cadence above 85. It's all grinding to a halt. And I do try and dig in after 400 watts. 400 watts should not be this hard. If you're thinking 400 watts does sound like quite a bit, I'm very large. 400 watts should be an awful lot easier than that was. That was just a brick wall. And a new FTP of 289, which is about 10% reduction on where it was. And in a way, I'm actually quite glad. It kind of shows that the FTP ramp test is probably about right as a means of measuring FTP, so that's good. It also shows that my recent poor performance on the bike is because I'm not as bike fit. And I don't feel that I am. And sometimes it's just nice to have what you suspect and what might almost be obvious anyway just confirmed to you. Something being bad is bad, but if you know how it is bad, why it is bad, how to fix it, how to measure the improvement to see if it's been fixed, then it's not too bad. So how do I fix this? I need to get back to some structured cycling training. My weight training routine is now in place. It's taken care of every morning at 9 AM. It's a pretty straightforward push-pull legs, rest routine. Very easy. My afternoons are then endurance, and that's a mix of cycling and running. Relatively straightforward still. The only complication is that sometimes I will run and cycle back to back, a brick session. Sometimes I'll go out on the bike, especially if it's nice weather out there. And sometimes if there's a race on, then that will obviously take priority. I've got one this weekend, in fact. So I have signed up on Zwift to the Zwift Racing Training Program, which is a 6-week routine. It's going to take me into about middle of June time. It's designed as a bit of an all-round Zwift race preparation routine. None of the sessions are over an hour, which means it's not going to be suitable for the Ironman training. But now that Ironman is June 2022, Ironman training can wait till the autumn. This year is pretty much just a year of having fun, primarily holding on to my fitness. No specific targets as such. This summer I'm going to be mucking about, doing a few fitness challenges for the channel. This training program, it just seems a nice way to get back to where I was in December. Actually, hopefully get beyond that. Hope you found it interesting. Please like and subscribe. Hit the notification button so you know when new stuff is coming up. The next video now is going to be after the weekend probably. As I said, I've got a race on Sunday. It's a 10k trail run in Henley-on-Thames. And then Sunday afternoon, I'm back in the gym. My kid thinks he can beat me on deadlifts, so I need to do my bit at sort of suppressing any challenge for the alpha position in the house by crushing him at that. I figured if I wear my medal from the morning's run while outlifting him in the afternoon, I should just about do it.